everybody. Good morning. Good morning to you all. What's going on? This is your boy DMPSpeaks with Family Morning Transformation. I am here for you. My name is David M. Pinkston, but I go by the name of DMP Speaks. I am a speaker. I am a board certified Christian counselor, but I'm also a personal development coach. Sorry, I'm looking for my water. A personal development coach for families. And I'm here every Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A couple of days I could not do it. Was a little under the weather, as you could kind of see. But I'm feeling much better, and I hope all of you are doing well. Again, every time I sit in this chair, every time that I go live or go on streaming, it is a pleasure. It's a blessing to be in front of you and your family. So I hope all are doing well. So the topic, I have no notes this morning, no notes. But I feel very compelled to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart. And I have not really shared fully. But the topic that I want to talk about today is when grief hits your family. Again, the topic is when grief hits your family. So this is a little different than what I'm talking about. But again, I want to give you real life experiences when it comes to your family. Like I said, there's no notes today. So this won't be super long, but I really feel that I need to talk about this because grief hurts. Grief hurts. And I need you guys to share this with someone. You know, somebody that's going through some grief. Please share this. Please share this. If I can just get several of you just to share this. Grief hurts. I can't even really put it into words, and I'm going to be very transparent today. Grief hurts and grief sucks. It hurts and it sucks because it is something that is out of your control. Because grief will just happen all of a sudden. You can be having a great day. You can be having a great evening, a great night. And all it takes is a thought. All it takes is a thought. And grief will just come in because that's what it's been doing to me. I have, and the reason why I'm talking about this, because when grief hits your family, it changes you. It changes you, I won't say for the worse, but you really deal with some real pain and you deal with some real issues. I'll say it again. Grief just comes, and when it comes, you deal with a certain pain, a certain anger that it can't really be explained. But the best way that I can say it today, it's like a dumbbell just falling on your heart because it makes you feel like, oh, where did this come from? I just had a great day. I accomplished so much. Grief doesn't care. Grief is going to do what it's going to do, and it's going to come to you when you least expect it. And all the loss that I've had, I was talking to my therapist, and she was just kind of reminding me the last going on 5 years, it has been tough for me personally. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because when grief hits your family, it not only changes you, but it does something to your spouses. It does something to your children. If they have lost a parent or a sibling, or they have lost a grandparent or somebody close to them, a close family friend, it can change you. It can change your mindset about life. You know, you never know what your kids are dealing with, you know, if you don't talk to them. I remember having a conversation with my son about, you know, he's lost his grandmother several years ago on his father's side, and you know, we've lost significant pieces of people he knew. You know, my father, his grandfather, his Auntie Sue. It hurts. And if we don't talk about how grief comes all of a sudden when you at least expect it, it's like you have to almost prepare for grief to come because it's going to come. I can't tell you how many times that I had to talk to my mother about my sister being gone. Just last weekend, sitting outside with my mother in this nice Georgia weather. She was so sad. And I'm not coming to make you sad, but I'm just really just going off the cuff. I'm just talking to you this morning. Grief is real, but we can't act like grief doesn't happen. I don't care if you're the most muscular, most strongest person you know. When grief happens, it happens to all of us in some way, shape, or form. It's just going to come different to you than it comes to somebody else. But grief is real, but we have to be able to embrace it. Can I be honest? I'm still angry. These deaths have really affected my family. Grief has probably really affected your family because you're trying to figure out, how do we move on? How do we move on from here? The way that you move on in your family, you have these really important, engaging conversations about grief. It's like you're telling your children, listen, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be peed off because it's a part of grief. I used to try to save my mother and try to save my niece and try to save my wife from the grief of losing my sister. And God had to remind me, you are not in control of that. I am. I tried to save them from all of the pain that we experience. People will never understand what my family went through when my sister was sick and had to go to the hospital back and forth and, go to hospice and then eventually, die. It is something that I really wish on nobody. I don't even care if somebody hated my guts. I would never wish that on somebody because it affects the family in such a way. It changes you all. You think about that loved one, or it might not even be loss of in the death. It could be loss of a relationship in your family. It could be a divorce. But I'm just kind of focusing on when you have lost, you got to check up on your kids, especially if there was a loss and death. You got to check on them. You got to talk to them. You really got to see where their mind is, and you got to let them talk. You got to let them get that emotion out, to get that feeling out. Because if you don't allow them, to get that out, they're going to bottle that up constantly. And it's going to be one thing that's going to happen, and it's going to take them over just like you shake up a soda bottle, and all of those fizzes and all of the chemicals in that soda. If you don't release that the right way, you let it sit or let that child talk, and you open it, it's going to be a combustible mess because you didn't really sit down and talk. And sometimes when you have loss, we try to just move on. Hear me clear. We try to move on so we can gain our strength. I would never, ever do that again. I will take time, and I'm telling you, you and your family, take time to grieve. I'll say it again. Take time to grieve. It is not a rush. It is not a race to say, I'm the most strongest person. Yeah, that hurt, but I'll make it. Yeah, we're going to make it, but you got to take time for yourself. You got to take time for grief, because if you don't take time for grief, how are you going to move forward? How are you going to, I'll say it again, how are you going to move forward if you don't take time to grieve? Take time to talk together, do a meeting, a family meeting, and say, we need to talk about how we feel when grandma left, or grandpa left, or your mother left, or your father left, or your sibling left. They're not here on this earth anymore. How do you feel, son? How do you feel, daughter? How do you feel? Talk to your wife, talk to your husband. You guys got to talk more about how you feel. Really sit down and remove the distractions. Talk about how you feel, because your family will only be better when you really, really deal with the grief. I will say it's probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do to deal with this grief, but how I'm getting through it, how my family is getting through it, we really look into the Lord and we talk about it. We talk about it as often as we can. We talk about the good times, but we talk about some things that were hard to see and to hear and to watch, because we can't act like it didn't happen, because it's happened. Because if I go up to Syracuse right now and I go to the cemetery, I see my sister's name, I see my father's name. I'm still dealing with my brother dying. Now another family member dying. It doesn't matter if I had a great relationship or had a relationship with them fully at all or not. Doesn't matter. It's still family, it's still blood. It could be a family friend. Some friends are closer than family members. So it doesn't matter the person, if they're a family member or not. But if they're close to you and they have impacted you in some way, grief is real. But don't suffer. And I know you heard this before, but don't suffer in silence by yourself, especially with your family. When grief hits, talk about it. Get the counseling, get the coaching, because it's that important to talk about this grief, because you have to grow from it. You can't let it stay there. You can't let it cripple you, because if you don't deal with it, it will cripple you. If you don't deal with it, you will be sitting in the corner trying to figure out life. I'm still trying to figure out how to go forward, but I go forward because I'm honest and I'm real, and I'm very transparent about how I feel about my father and my sister and the other ones that I have lost that were close to me. So I just want to encourage you all. Not only am I encouraging you to deal with your grief, I'm praying for you and your family. It is not an easy thing to go through, but with time, I won't say that it gets easier, because sometimes it don't. It really don't. I understand it, as they say, by and by. But I know I have to be as strong as I can, but also be vulnerable, be open as a man to say, hey, family, this still hurts. I know you guys are still hurting, but we have to go on. We have to move forward, but we don't have to remember. Well, I mean, we don't have to forget, excuse me, but we must remember those people that made such an impact in our lives. And I want to say to my father and his memory, and to my sister, I love you, and I always will. Guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.